I'll wait. Oh, there we go. All right. Good morning. I think we're at 50, which is what we need to start the meeting. We're not much more than 50, but we need 50 to start the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Rita, I will take a head count when I sit down, an exact head count. All right. Thank you for letting me pull you away from, I know we all enjoy our time to visit and catch up with each other, and I appreciate you letting me pull you away from that so we could start the meeting. And I'm going to open us in prayer. Father, Mother God, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and allow us to grow closer as a group and a church family to nurture the bonds of our church community. Amen. So we're going to start our meeting with one of the things that's the most exciting, I think, is the growth in our education division. And so Lizzie Patterson's going to come up and give us an update on our mission moment and share with us all the good news that's happening with Christian education.
Thank you. Hi, guys. So we've got a lot of good things going on with education, starting with our farewell Katie party, which went off, oh my gosh, I mean, it's like standing room only. It was amazing. So it was a very fitting and perfect way to send her off. We had our end of the year picnic at Elmwood then, fairly shortly after, and we had a really good turnout for that. We did kick somebody out of their picnic pad, but we had it reserved, so we were in the right. Summer Sunday school went awesome. We debated if we were going to do it so that it felt more like a break, but then we're like, no, we don't want to lose the momentum that we had started. So we rotated with Dina and Susan and myself, and we each took a turn doing it, and it went really well. So we'll probably do that again next summer with the rotations. And then VBS was amazing. Thank you guys all so much for your contributions. Susan and Steve and Mike and Sandy, the pictures were amazing. The kids had such a great time. So we had so many kids this year. So VBS went great. The youth room above Memorial Hall got painted, thanks to Chris Anderson, my dad, Dawn, Terry, Pam. So it was definitely a team effort. It looks amazing, and that's where our older group of Sunday school has been meeting with Ashley every week. All the closets upstairs are organized. Nicole, thank you to you for being so flexible with moving your stuff. And so everything on the third floor is kind of gotten organized and situated. We had a youth cookout to kick off the youth group this year, and Will Gustafson and Jordan Lovelace, his fiance, have been leaders, as have Liz and Justin. So thank you guys so much. We know it's a building year. And we're so excited to already see some of the friendship bonds that are forming, and we're excited for that to continue. Ice Cream Social also went off beautifully. We met with the nursery staff just to make sure all was well with them. I feel like sometimes the nursery can kind of get pushed aside or forgotten about, since Carolyn's been there so long, doing such great work there, and still sounds like everything's going well with that. Adult Ed is going awesome. We have a planning meeting happening next week. We would love to get as many people there as possible to, again, continue to build the education program as a whole. We really want to hear from the congregation about what it is that you guys are wanting to learn more about and to dive deeper into. Sunday school itself is also going very well. We've got the 3 sections now, and then once a month we also have Sandy doing the kind of early childhood thing, which has been amazing. Homecoming then also went off without a hitch. We had some games, good turnout, good cleanup crew and setup crew. Fall movie night we just had. We had to move it inside, but it was still really fun. And there were talks about maybe doing like a Christmas one or a Valentine one. So we'll see. And then Wednesday nights are also going well. We're hoping to try to get more people involved. It's definitely still very experimental with the intergenerational piece of it. But Scott and I have had a lot of fun putting it together, and thank you guys to those who have showed up for that. And then for future plans, we've got our trunk or treat tonight, and our Christmas program will be on December 10th, and the Advent workshop will be on the 3rd, and then we've got our Thanksgiving dinner coming up, so a lot of fun things still in the works, and just thank you so much to everybody for being so supportive and for welcoming me on, too. I know I had huge shoes to fill with Katie leaving, and I've just had so much fun, and I'm so happy here. So thank you guys so much. I love you all so much, and we're excited to continue to grow the program. So thanks.
We are happy to have you here too, Lizzie. So Mar's going to come up and give our financial report. I know he's here. There he is. And talk about the draft budget for 2024. I am so grateful that Lamar has been alongside me for my 2 years as moderator. I think I take you for granted, but he is a really good treasurer, and we're very, very fortunate.
All these debits and credits, it's too much fun. You have a handout. Does anyone need a handout? Kurt's got more available. But lots of financial information here that we'll share and invite any questions you might have. But turning first to this year and the results so far and how things are looking, let's start with the second page of the handout, which lists the assets and liabilities of the church. And I'd like to go on down the page and highlight the current balance in several of the main funds of the church. You see the fund balances there. There's a general fund balance. This actually will be zeroed out at the end of the year. Next is our reserve fund balance. We have just over $3,600 in reserve funds. Now, we've depended on these for a number of years because we'd built up some reserves and actually needed them to cover budget deficits the last several years. And as you can see, we've pretty much expended the reserve funds. The endowment fund balance is where we've set aside funds and they're invested in the stock market for long-term benefit of the church. And each year, a portion of those funds are brought into the general fund to help cover the operating budget. Building fund has been used a lot this last year and years before that. And you can see the building fund is down to about $5,600. Now, we have plans to recharge that from the capital campaign, and you'll see more about that later. The capital fund currently is just under $60,000. So those are the pledges received last year and this year, and minus the expenditures we've made so far, which were significant this year. Again, more detail to follow. Then down the page are some other small funds, but I want to call your attention to the estate and memorial funds. We have $13,000 currently in this fund, and this is a source for building repairs and some special needs from time to time. And then a couple lines down further, you see the Vassal Memorial fund, and it's over $100,000 now from Bob Vassal's estate. Recent increase, the last $11,000, I think, is from life insurance proceeds. So what a wonderful gift, and we'll put it to good use. So let's turn next to the spreadsheet with the income and expenses of the church. So lots of columns here. Thank you, Bonnie, for putting this all together. She does it every month, of course, for the council. And then this time of year is especially challenging as we bring in the budget information from all of the ministries, and then Bonnie reviews our financial activities and projects what she thinks will be appropriate for the coming year. But you'll see this has several columns. First is the current year budget, and then what happened in September, and then we annualize that for 2023, and then have the actual year-to-date information. And between the current year budget and then how are we doing year-to-date and what's the annualized version of that, that helps the ministries decide their budget for the new year. So we're going to focus first on the annual budget information, and we'll turn to the budget here in a little bit, the new budget. But first are the income items, and you'll see the pledge revenues are running pretty close to budget for the year. That's not unusual for us. Pledges come on strong at the end of the year. It seems to be kind of the recurring story for us. Plate income is strong this year. It looks like we'll be ahead of budget as the year ends for plate income. That's great news. Then you see a list of other contributions, and just to highlight a couple, you remember we do a year-end appeal in December, and the church has given about $23,000 a year for the last several years in that year-end appeal, and that's very critical because that really allows us to balance the budget or come closer to balancing the budget over time. You'll see in last year's budget an item called mid-year appeal. We budgeted a large deficit this year and felt a year-end appeal may be necessary. And then with the staffing changes we've had this year, we've actually saved some money from our budget, and so the year-end appeal was not considered necessary at the time. And we'll see how this will play out for the year and in the next year's budget as well. We have several items of earned income, including the church sale. Investment earnings include a transfer each year from the endowment fund. Plus this year, we're enjoying high returns on our liquid assets due to high interest rates. So we're over budget on investment earnings, which is a positive. Weddings, a little stronger than budget this year. Building rentals actually below budget because we lost a number of people that used the building from the pandemic forward. Parsonage is on track. Thrift shop, as always, is a generous contributor to other income as well. We did transfer almost $5,000 from the building fund to cover building expenses that we'll talk about on the next page. So all in all, our budgeted income was $473,000. We expect we'll come in a little below that due to not having the year-end appeal or the mid-year appeal. And then, of course, we're dependent on how the December appeal results come in. we'll look forward to that. So next, we list our expenses from the general fund. And for the staff, we applied a 3.2 cost of living adjustment. We use the same number as the government does for Social Security as a base for setting compensation for the staff. And so you'll see that reflected throughout all the staff positions. Now, of course, Katie was here a little over half a year, so we're not going to incur the full budgeted amount for her position. And then Lizzie's part-time position will partially offset that, all in all. But altogether, we're about expecting to be about $40,000 less in compensation in the new year. Then if you go to each of the categories, they're running very close to budget: congregational care, outreach, education, and then the long list of ministry support expenses listed there. The only ones really I'd call out to talk about are electrical is running lower than expected, and there was significant HVAC expenses incurred this year. I think a lot of those to do with the class entry over here. So if we go on down the page, on the next page at the top are special projects. So you see there we had 4 main projects that were undertaken there and expenditures associated with that. Utilities, insurance, communications team, then on down to the worship ministry. So then you get down to the totals. So if you look at the budgeted deficit, really, the first column, we anticipated about a $56,000 deficit this year, which of course was very attention-getting. But when the staff changes came into effect and other changes you'll see as we talk about the new budget, we think that's going to be incurred this year and then be pretty much behind us for a while. We'll still have a deficit this year, but I think it's going to come in at less than the $56,000 that we budgeted because of the staffing changes primarily. Any questions about this year's activity that I can answer? Then let's go back to the front of the same schedule and look at the new budget column. That's the last column. And just to highlight the changes from this year's budget, the pledges have been budgeted at our goal, which was a 10% increase over prior years as we try to make progress in balancing our budget. And you'll get a stewardship report that's very encouraging here about that shortly. Then going down the other items, the plate, the year-end appeal, investment earnings, building rental, and so forth, pretty much tracking from our experience this year and budgeting similarly in the new year. And then for expenses, as I mentioned, using the 3.2% COLA rate that was applied to staff salaries. And then next year, obviously, the associate minister position will be out and the part-time CE position in. And the net effect of that is about $40,000 a year savings in the budget. Going down the other items, you can see that last year's budget and this year's budget are really very, very much the same for each category. And then the important bottom line number is that it almost balances. So this budget projects just a $1,500 excess, but it is an excess. And so yes, in the 6 years I've done this, that's new and great news. So, any questions on the new budget? Again, thank you, Bonnie and Barb, for your hard work on contributions and the financial reports. Thank you.
A note and an apology. When I created the draft agenda, I had a search committee update on here, which Garrett provided to me, and then when I wrote the agenda, I left it off. So I think, Garrett, if you're okay, we'll do it, let's do it after the capital campaign. Thanks. And apologies, as I was listening to Lizzie talk, I was like, there's supposed to be a search committee update on here, so forgive me for that. Susan has been, if you've been following along on the stewardship campaign, I think she's doing really an exceptional job. I think her letters have been, and her newsletter updates have just been really exceptional, and her communication has just been spot on. So if you haven't heard the message that we're in a stewardship campaign right now, then you're not paying attention, because it's all been there. So she's going to give us an update.
Thank you all, and this has been a wonderful campaign. We are right on schedule, and we're doing very well. So far, we have received 67 pledges. The total amount of those is $280,848, which is 72% of our goal. So thank you very much. 75% of the people have increased their pledges by 12%. Out of the 67 pledges, 5 of them were new pledges, 5 pledges were decreased, and 16 pledges remained the same. But out of all of the pledges, there has been a 10% increase over 2023. And so I think we're right on schedule. If you haven't pledged yet, please do so. We're not giving up yet. We're not done. You're going to still hear from me, even though we gave the October 22nd as a deadline. It's not really a deadline. Please continue to think about what you would like to give so that we can leave a legacy for those ahead of us and continue with where we're at with the church and building for that future. Thank you.
One of the hardest working committees is the Capital Campaign Task Force. Boy, do they do a lot. I mean, both like literally you can see what has been done, and then they just have put a lot of thought into the work that's going on. And so the Capital Campaign update is the back page of your agenda, and Justin's going to give us an idea from the an update from the task force.
Hello, everyone. So we have some really great news and some maybe frustrating news, I guess. It's not new news. We've been trying to talk to the church about what this process has been like for the task force. And I will say the task force is doing a lot of work in the back end, and you won't always see it, and you haven't seen the results that we want to accomplish yet, but we're getting there. What you do see is the incredible amount of work that Terry and several others have done just maintaining the day-to-day stuff here. So please give a huge round of applause to Terry. Thank you. So many of the things that happen here are because he's either overseeing them or doing them or coordinating them. So thank you. And then, so if you look at the back side of all of this, you'll see just a quick spreadsheet. It's a way to explain where we started, what the budgets for those items were, broken out into the biggest categories, and then what current costs that we've incurred. So you'll see that we've replaced those doors. They're continuing to work on these doors here. Hopefully they'll be done soon. I know that they've been working really hard. If you look at the other patio doors, that's a clear example of how amazing and beautiful this set of doors is going to be. So we're very excited about that. The really exciting but not cool and fun thing that we got done was the boiler replacement. So we were able to upgrade from what was one massive, less than 80% efficient unit to a unit that's significantly, it's 90+ percent efficient. It will provide us the heat that we need at a much reduced rate of energy use. And so that helps meet a lot of our goals. One being that we can heat the church at all. So that is a really positive step forward. The chimney was removed. We did a lot of building security updates. The building security update budget was originally much less, intending to do some security updates on the doors. We added cameras after some incidences outside, and just recognizing that that security is probably good for the church, we did increase the costs there. You'll notice overall costs for things when we projected them 6-7 years ago have gone up. In the last 3 years alone, construction costs themselves have gone up over 30%. It's been an exceptional rise in construction, and everybody keeps building, so those costs continue to rise. One of the biggest unforeseen things that we've talked about a lot is the plumbing. The basement is secure now. The plumbing is functioning the way it should, and we're really excited that we have that. We were not excited to have to do that, but that was a necessary cost. And then the other one that wasn't budgeted was repairing the sanctuary. Above these sanctuary doors here, we had some water damage. That is repaired. Again, thanks to Terry's leadership in making that happen. The last piece that I just want to go over, we originally intended to, as the biggest section of this project, bring our gym back to life so that we could use it for ourselves. And then also, we got a lot of feedback from the church indicating that we wanted to run community events, sports activities, all sorts of things out of that gym space. We were very excited about what that might look like and the opportunities that it can bring. The reality is, after working with an architect and after going over a number of options and trying to find out the most inexpensive way, but also the way that gets us to where we want to go, the plans, I've shared them previously, and I'm happy to share them again, but we tried to find the least expensive option to get us what we need to do in the gym. The least expensive option would cost about $1 million. We do not have $1 million. So we are faced with the question of pausing on the goal of trying to bring the gym back into full use for community and looking at what options we have. In the meantime, we're continuing to seek what funding options we would have and how we can pare back the project and still accomplish our goals. We are not giving up on the gym entirely. We are going to have to shift some focus for how we're spending the money in that space, and that's a reality. The other conversation that we had with council and have now continued to pursue is the elevator. Our current elevator, it is our understanding, it's more of a sketchy lift. The lift is no longer functioning or functioning at a very minimal level. It will have a very, very short lifespan at this point, no matter what we do. And we are going to get to a point, if we are not there already, where we are not allowed to fix it anymore just because of it does not meet standards. In order to replace it with a proper elevator, which is the only option that gets us to all the floors in our very beautiful, very complicated building, it would cost about $400,000. And so that's another reality check on what it would take. That was not part of our original campaign. We had originally decided it was going to be too expensive as a church and had paused that goal also. We are continuing to explore those funding opportunities. There are some people who are really interested in investing in an elevator, and if we can secure more funding, we might have different options available to us for an elevator replacement. So those are the things that the task force is currently working on. We are not giving up on anything yet. In the meantime, We've gotten some design conversations about these parlor bathrooms because that's been a big part of like the things that we can move forward on without an architect. And so we're going to continue the work that we have on the back end, and hopefully very soon you'll start seeing those results, but at least we can look at the pretty doors. Thank you all.
So before Garrett comes up, Kurt's been monitoring the online. Have we had any questions from? Okay. All right. So the last item is, before we open it up for the good of the order, a search committee update. I think one of the ways that you can tell the health and vitality of any organization, but in particular a church, is just how well the work gets done. I mean, there are so many people without really a lot of duplication, serving on these different ministries and committees, just doing all the things that need to be done and doing it with a grateful heart and a positive spirit. And it's just a really, this is an exciting place to be. So thank you to everybody who contributed so much to all the things that went into all those reports today, including the search committee.
All right, so this summer, the first Central Search Committee for 2023 was formed, consisting of Dina Higginbotham, Chrissy Straka, Sally Lewis, Kurt Cannon, Kendra Della Cadena, Scott Jones, Leanne Gonzalez, and myself. And the group was tasked with making a recommendation for action following Katie moving into a senior ministry elsewhere, and what we were going to do regarding an associate minister, a director of Christian education, and kind of the variety of roles that Katie previously played and how we move forward. And as a committee, we had a couple of really in-depth conversations about what was the added value that the associate minister brought to our church. We talked about that she brought a variety of identities to the ministry and pastorship available to our congregation. We really felt that that was something that was important and valuable to us, and so we, as a committee, wanted to move forward with the idea of, well, how do we approach that? And before we could really functionally do that, we needed to go to council and the various ministries and ask, well, what is the sort of capacity of our church to continue in that path? And knowing that we were looking at some budgetary situations, we asked and really got a unanimous recommendation that yes, we see that value, but we think that right now fiscal responsibility is that we need to assure that our Christian education program continues and look to the future for an associate minister position, but probably not at this immediate time. So considering those things and moving forward, and also hearing from our various committees how much folks have appreciated the work that Lizzie has done and is doing such a great job with, our committee has made the recommendation, and officially we just make the recommendation to the education ministry. They go through council, make those decisions, but our recommendation is to keep Lizzie on. We think she's doing a great job. There's some details that the education ministry and the council will work out with how we move that position from an interim position into a standing position. We have looked at some of the additional roles, be it around communication, around Camp Kaleo, and we're seeing different staff members filling those roles and niches to make sure that those programs continue, and everyone's kind of finding how we make sure that the opportunities for our congregation, for our youth, for adults, really continue as we look into a new structure. So our recommendation moving forward is to keep Lizzie on as the Director of Christian Education. This report is available. I know Marion's got it and will be available, as well as just sort of some draft suggestions that we had around compensation packages and things that we don't actually get to make the decision on, but we just wanted to offer some input towards. So with that, that's our report.
So that meeting, the council meeting, will receive their recommendation from the education ministry on November 14th is our next council meeting. And then the annual meeting is, I think it's the last Sunday in January, which I don't have off the top of my head, but that's when the annual meeting is, and we'll vote on the budget. Any questions online? Nothing? Anything else from the congregation today? Announcements, questions, anything for the good of the order? Yes, Tracy. So Justin, you want to, is Justin still here? Okay. So the question was, what do we gain if we were to invest such a large amount of money in bringing the gym to a place where the community could use it? And I think I'm asking the question correctly. Versus what do we lose by not doing that? What do we have, what's the in between, maybe?
So unfortunately, one of the things that we're running into that costs the most for the gym is not the actual gym. It's that in order for community use to occur in the gym, there's two things that have to happen that are the most expensive items. One, we have to have accessible bathrooms. Those are the renovation and addition of the bathrooms, bringing the men's bathroom that used to be down there back, and then renovating the women's bathroom. And then also we are required to add egress, proper egress out the back of the gym. You cannot leave through the mechanical room. So the solution, the least expensive but still very expensive solution was to add a stair tower where our current garage is that goes down into the gym space. That stair tower itself was about $200,000 to $230,000. So that represented a huge chunk of the funding or of the budget required to bring the gym into community use. The opportunities for spending the money to do the things weren't just around the gym though, because it was changing some of the scope of how you would get to the elevator space, for example, through the thrift shop area to make that more accessible and easy. It was, again, adding the bathrooms on the thrift shops level, and then it was making changes to that space that would make that space much more welcoming space to enter, especially if we were going to, for example, rent the gym. So the goal was to look for opportunities for community partnerships, rental, all sorts of things that could happen if that was possible. Now, in order to make that, because that's what the church had indicated that we wanted from the gym space. Unfortunately, we're running into that financial barrier. And that's why we're revisiting what it looks like, and we're having conversations with church members who are really invested in the gym to make sure that we still follow through with our goals to do some sort of work in the gym, because we do have a floor that has holes in it. There's opportunities down there to spend less. It will mean that we can't use it for community use, and that we can use it as a church for smaller groups. Otherwise, we would be taking on some liability if we were to do that. I hope that answers your question. Yes? Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yes, so the question is about the elevator, and it's whether or not it's a rough estimate, guesstimate, or if there are bids around it. There are not contractual bids, contractor bids, because we don't have contractor drawings from an architect required. We would be putting in a new elevator shaft adjacent to the one where it is now, actually in the closet, basically in the closet up here, in the parlor. That bid is based on the architect and the structural engineer. We spent about 4 hours to 6 hours one day just digging into the guts of the building, getting a good sense of what it would take to actually put the elevator where it is. So we know we can put an elevator there. That was question number one. Can we even do it? Number two was, what would it take to make that happen? Those two have indicated that that's the range of costs that we're looking at. So I don't have a precise bid, but that gives us a general understanding. The reflection here was just to make sure that people can hear, or people online who might have missed it, was that there is a desire that the elevator is an important part of the accessibility of the church, and that there's an indication that perhaps we should prioritize making the elevator happen over spending money in maybe some of the other spaces. And so that's a conversation we can certainly have ongoing. The elevator was not part of the original project, so I just want to highlight that that was not funded, and we are currently working on what it might look like to fund it separately from this project. We do stand currently with the overages covered at about $180,000 in unallocated funds that we have to make choices on how we use them. Things will cost more, like when we do the bathrooms. That's another accessibility issue, though, also. So that was important to us. And those will most likely cost more than the original budget, so we're trying to be aware of what that looks like, too. So no decisions officially have been made. We are trying to make sure that when we make those decisions that they're the right ones for the church. So we're getting that input, and thank you.
Thank you. Lynn handed me the microphone, so does anybody else want to ask a question, get some clarification on the task force or anything else? Did you have a question? Okay.
When is this gonna end?
Fair question. Shortly.
I wanted to thank you for sharing your thoughts on the elevator. It's been a really hard task with the task force that I'm one member of it. And the elevator is a very important part, but it just was not part of the task force. So I think what we thought we probably needed to do was to either have another fundraiser for the elevator, or if people just wanted to, write checks that say for the elevator, that is probably the best way that we're going to get the elevator in. There isn't money in task force to do that. So as a congregation, if we want to be more welcoming and make sure that people have access to all the floors from the gym to third floor, we're going to have to come together as a congregation and pool our money again. And I know we've asked a lot with task force and with the stewardship this year, but the elevators are really important. We have a wonderful congregation that ranges from 2 years old to 90 plus, and those people have a right to go up to third floor to First Forum. And at this point, a lot of people are not able to do that because of the stairs. Or even us younger folks, I'm not that young, but before I had my hip replaced, the elevator was broken, and it was really hard to get up there. I went and I stayed there until the kids came, and then I left. So it's something we need to look at. And part of with the elevator is also securing the building. And I know that's been an issue. Well, just last week, we had a purse stolen. And part of that is the building is so big and has so many twists and turns that it's hard to secure it. And by putting where the elevator is, it was part of perhaps building a hallway around so that the thrift store is secure and the church is secure, and we won't probably get to do the gym, but at that point it was to make sure everything was secure. There would be a common hallway that went to the elevator, but you did not have access on Sunday mornings to anything else except for that. So it's also another way to make sure we have some safety in the church. And I think, and you hate to say it in this day and age, but we need to make sure we secure the building as well. So I would ask that we really think about that and everything. Thank you.
You know, I'm going to because the folks online can't see, do you mind coming up so they can? Okay, quick question.
Is it for the elevator, is that wheelchair accessible? Because, I mean, if you want to be including, I would assume that it is that the plan?
Technically, the current elevator fits a wheelchair and a small person smushed up against the wall. But to have enough, as I understand it, and I know I'll stand where people can see me. If I understand what Justin's told us before, a new elevator would actually be a little bit bigger to be code, correct? Yes.
To install a new elevator, so far the architect is indicating that we would get the smallest possible what's available, but that's still a 5x7 elevator, so it's significantly bigger than what we have now, which is why we can't put it where it is now. So.
Yes.
I'm just thinking in my head, the number of situations that we have where we need to gain access to the third floor and the gymnasium level, where the percentage of persons that would benefit by needing to go to those two levels that otherwise would not, and the second and third, and the gymnasium level. I know the adult ed workshops that occur on the second level would be a reason why you would want to have access to it. My question is, why wouldn't we be able to maybe consider doing things in the in Memorial Hall to make it be accessible for that?
So just as a, I want to make sure I understand. I'm going to move over here. I think Dave's question is, could we have more things like adult ed in Memorial Hall to increase the accessibility? We do have problems with acoustics, but obviously fixing acoustics would be cheaper than putting in an elevator. So that's perhaps something for Christian education to consider.
I just want to highlight that I'm happy to continue fielding questions. We will continue getting feedback from people as we look at decisions. This was just a way at this moment to tell you these are the costs and this is the reality behind achieving what we had said we wanted to achieve. In the meantime, we will continue exploring options and we will get feedback so that I think there's a lot of opportunities for shifting where we do things and how we do them if we want to go a different direction. But that's a conversation that we would like to have. This was just a way to update you all on what we've found out so far. So if you have any questions about the updates, I'm happy to continue taking them. If we have feedback, I would welcome an opportunity to have a feedback session at a different time. I just want to make sure this meeting is able to continue. And yes.
Theo's watching, so. These are really good questions, and I appreciate this. This is the opportunity for these kinds of discussions. And I'm sure that our education ministry heard the comments about perhaps offering some more things down here so they can talk about that and we can work on the acoustics if that's a temporary solution. Anything else? Thank you all for giving us your time this Sunday morning, and we'll see you at the annual meeting, if not before.